Because if you look with a high degree of fastidiousness, you will recognize the inconsistencies in them and that fundamentally they are lies. Good evening, gentlemen. Today I wanted to do something that had some personal significance to me today. And I know that a lot of people who invest their time into watching these kinds of videos and my tweets and my content in general might also find some semblance in the content today. So we are going to give thanks to Takeaway Secessions, probably butchered that, in relation to his 100 days of sobriety after smoking weed all day, every day for 9 years, and his 30 points of insight. So let's begin. First and foremost, our brother remarks that it wasn't ever about the weed. He was addicted, but it wasn't weed. It would have been something else. The weed specifically was not the problem. It was covering the problem, and the problem was my identity. I've talked about this at length in my previous videos many times before. Conscious identity change, in my estimation, is one of the most potent reframing habits you can do if it is your objective to rid yourself of a degenerate habit. We're starting off very strong here because I fundamentally believe at the axiom of your change is not getting rid of your weed smoking habit. It is killing a version of you that smokes weed. It is destroying and dismantling and dismembering an identity of you as a weed smoker. How do I know this? Because I murdered that version of Joseph who was consistent with that identity, and I never visit his grave. Let's proceed. I deserve to be happy, but not for doing nothing. Life will not change through a thought, an intention, or wish, only through action. No truer words have ever been said, brother. I will say here, though, that thoughts are typically the precursor of that action, and then habits, and then character change, and then destiny. I always like to quote Lao Tzu here, the father of Taoism, the father of Taoism, the father of the yin yang, which is, what's your thoughts? They become the words you say. What's your words you say? They become the actions you make. What's the actions? They become your habits, character, destiny. So you can reverse engineer destiny just by getting clear on what is happening between your ears in the gray. One of the biggest reoccurring mistakes my clients make with other coaches or even themselves is first not consciously creating a new identity they can orientate their behavior around. The consequences of not doing this are dire, because if you have no reference point, if you have not planned for a new behavior in spite of the addicted behavior, be it smoking weed, be it watching porn, be it taking Xanax, then you will fall back into the path of least resistance. Your nervous system will do that better than you can even consciously think about. It's subconscious. It's below the iceberg, meaning you have to create an emergency escape plan in a way and write down, go through it in your nervous system with your body, not just theoretically and nebulously think about it in terms of thought. What am I going to do in the hours I would typically reach for the blunt? Will it be going for a walk, listening to music, going in exercises? If you do not have a reference point, you will fall back into the habit every time. Like a comfortable TV show you put on when you're bored, or a comfortable chair that you always enjoy sitting in. You go in on autopilot. I didn't need to figure out every trauma that got me here before I moved forward. Sadness and anger are permissible. Anger often makes change the only option. I've often been quoted in saying that identifying with emotion is weak, especially low vibrational emotions like fear, like depression, like apathy. The reason being is they keep you attached, and you cannot confuse these two narratives or these two ideas, that you have an emotion and that you are emotion. You hear people say it all the time. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm depressed. This is incorrect. You are experiencing anger. You are experiencing sadness. You are experiencing depression, whatever you want to call it. Those two are not even nearly the same things. However, what I will say is anger is a very powerful emotion, and at its vibrational level, it oscillates far higher than fear and desire, which is typically the emotion you identify with when you relapse. Let me just quickly bring up Dawkinson's consciousness scale here as a reference point. Let me just center this to give you a quick idea here. So if you don't know about this already, get busy knowing, because this is the language of the body. This is revolutionary knowledge that you should have, that should be taught in primary schools. This should be basic life knowledge. So these are all your emotional states here. Look at where desire and fear oscillate, yeah? Desire is at 125 and fear is at 100. And these are the states that there's an easy, slippery slope down to grief, apathy, guilt, and shame when you relapse. But what is above desire? Anger. Anger can be a very useful tool, because if you can identify with anger and use anger, you can start to escalate up to that changing point, which is courage. Courage is where everything changes, and you can start to transition to neutrality, willingness, acceptance, inner light, wisdom, love, oneness, presence, non-duality, full God consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And that is the tipping point. That is the changing point. That is where you jump timelines up to a version of you that is very, very potent, very, very powerful, and consistent with this idea of higher self. I've often been quoted in saying that you begin to escape a emotional and mental hell when you do this. They are not physical places. I know the Christians will tell me, Joseph, you're talking out your ass. Of course, hell is a real place. Hell is in here. Hell is in here. Hell is apathy. Hell is shame. Hell is depression. And heaven is also in here. Heaven is enlightenment. Heaven is those emotional reference points I mentioned before. Let's come back to our brother here. So guilt and shame are dead-end toxic feelings, as we've established. The best way not to feel guilt and shame is to stop doing things that make you feel so. I concur. Every time I got high, I told myself it was the last time, because that shame and guilt in the moment was an easier cycle to fall into than changing my life. I have a lot of identification with that kind of thought process there. I smoked because I felt unsafe. Whether that lack of safety manifested through loneliness, grief, boredom, anger, anxiety, or self-hatred, it did not matter. Instead of soothing, I pushed myself over and over. I punished myself, over and over again. I've been punished enough. I agree. This is where you need to get mad at life circumstances and start to break free from the cycle. I've told myself hundreds of stories as to why I smoked, how lonely I was, how I couldn't process or face early loss and trauma, how I needed to feel creative, to be social, to be fun. Oh boy, I've told myself the same stories here. I wonder if you have too, brother. The truth is, I was unhappy. I hated myself and I felt uncomfortable in my own body. You have to watch the stories that you tell yourself, especially around a vice like weed, and especially around the reoccurring stories that you habitually tell yourself. Because if you look with a high degree of fastidiousness, you will recognize the inconsistencies in them, and that fundamentally they are lies. Lies made with the purpose to try and coax you out of that feeling of guilt and shame. How do I know this? Because I used to tell myself the same stories over and over again, gentlemen. I used to tell people, oh, I cannot get to sleep. I will have insomnia if I don't smoke my joint this evening. Oh, I want to be the cool guy at the party who has the weed and all the girls can get some weed off me. And reality makes you smelly, unsociable, and paranoid. And at the end, when I uncovered those emotions, I recognized it was a longing for death. But this is a mistake, by the way. It is not a physical death you're longing for. It is a mental, it is an identity death. Do not mistake this. Do not conflate this. This is a calling for identity death. You are tired of playing this character of Joseph, the weed smoker. Kill him, murder him, throttle him, bury him, never visit his grave, and create a new identity that is stronger, that will rise like a phoenix out of the ashes. I know that was very cliche, but it is true. Let's press on. The feelings I tried to avoid with weed were still there, just masked. When the high wore off, they were even worse. Escapism 101. I felt more fun than ever after a few weeks when I spent years thinking I needed to be high to be social, i.e. didn't have social anxiety, was just high. I couldn't comprehend the space weed took up in my life until it was gone. I reclaimed hours out of each day, my relationships, money, skin, my energy, and my life was beginning to bloom before my eyes. There is nothing scarier than waking up in 6 months in the exact same place as the exact same person. We're supposed to change. Didn't you know? Dancing alone is really fun. Nobody is coming to rescue me or hold my hand to drag you out. You have to save yourself. Waking up not feeling like shit because I binge ate is really nice. Cutting my grocery bill in half is also really nice. I don't miss the friends that I lost when I quit because they were probably stoner losers too. Tapering off and slowing down never made it easier. Again, make the identity shift. Oh, I'm not trying to quit smoking weed. I never smoked in the first place. The urges and cravings and withdrawals stuck around for a few weeks. That pain is almost enough on its own to make me never want to start again. It was worth it. Time is running out. Your very asset of the most valuable asset you have is running out, and you're spending it, zonked out on the sofa. Boredom is my best friend and an opportunity to get to know myself. I'm not an anxious, lonely person. I'm a person who sometimes feel anxiety and loneliness. He's starting to get it. I hope you're starting to get it too. It's not that we don't have these emotions. It's that you don't identify with them. I'm anxious. I'm lonely. No, you experience anxiety and you on occasion experience loneliness. But if you can exercise that degree of detachment and separation, it goes away like clouds that you watch in the sky. The way I speak to myself changes my entire life because you're oscillating higher on Dawkinson's scale. You're above courage, you're at willingness, you're at acceptance. Missing, loving, and craving something does not mean I have to go back to it. I will never be able to heal or figure out who I am while high. Wow, what a powerful, powerful insight. Change is not linear, and I had to forgive myself to keep moving forward. Beating myself up never changed the past, and it paralyzed my future. I didn't believe that I could stop, and part of me didn't want to, and that's okay. I got to a point where it was my only option. Sometimes you need to get to the precipice before you can actually take that jump. Withdrawals don't last, and they get easier when I started treating myself well. Hydration, clean diet, clean space, good movement. I had to get out of my own way. There was truly nothing stopping me other than myself. That's how it's always been, brother. I'm really proud of myself, but the best word I have to describe how I feel is free. Life is short and we are all allowed to be happy. No matter where you are on this journey, stick with it. It gets really, really good. Love to you all. God bless you, brother. Let's see what the comments are saying here. Heavy on the tapering, not making it easier. Again, focus on that identity change. I'm going to screenshot some of these to remind me. I love the positivity here. Hopefully this is feeling and imbuing on you a positive emotion today, gentlemen. And I don't think these are fit theories today, gentlemen. I believe these are hard, solid facts that you can take with you, integrate into your lifestyle, change your paradigm, and move to a position where you can start to live. Because some people are alive, but they never truly live. Something to meditate on. Speak soon.